Hello guys, welcome back to the free-to-play episode, and in today's episode we're just going to be showing some sped up gameplay. There's no real focus of the gameplay today, it's just to show you what I'm doing in each and every day of playing the account, and to try and refresh you guys on the general goals and aims. So the first thing I'm doing is just looking through the store. I do this every time the store refreshes. I have an alarm set on my phone for every 6 hours that just reminds me to go and check. The reason I use an alarm, and this may benefit some of you who have multiple accounts, each of my accounts that I run has a different payout time for fleet, because you never want the same payout on multiple accounts, because then there's a chance you can't get your fleet payout on each account at the same time. That makes sense, right? So what I do is I set an alarm and I come on and I just check the store, and what I'm looking for at the moment is shards for characters and farming. So for example, in the Cantina farm, I'm looking for power shards. I'm also looking for Hoth Rebel Scout shards. There's other characters I'm looking for throughout the different shipments, and it's important I get them when I can because it's going to speed up my progress a lot. One of the things I've spoken about on recent streams, in case you didn't see it, it was my most recent one, which was just a live stream, which I'll be doing one every week of my Starkiller account. And what I actually said was, a lot of the shipments, my main priority is just a 7-star each and every character, and for the fleets, each and every ship. Now this may seem long, and I know that some of you want to be spending those resources elsewhere. Maybe you want to buy ship credits, maybe you want to buy just ordinary credits, maybe you want to buy Zetas. Honestly guys, my advice for anyone new to the game is first focus on 7-starring everyone, because you don't want to be in a position where down the line, maybe 1 year, 2 years later, yes, you've been going for Zetas and that's a very immediate gain, right? We need Zetas, everyone does. But if you don't have those characters 7-star and all of a sudden you want to farm someone and you need someone at 7 stars, you're in a pretty bad spot. So for example, let's say someone 2 years ago ignored Gamorrean Guard from the guild store, and then down the line, he's required for Jabba the Hutt, and that said person then starts panicking, oh, I don't have him 7-star, it's just going to add on to my farm. At least if you have him done early, it's kind of okay, guys, because early game you don't necessarily need those extra credits, you don't necessarily need those extra Zetas, you don't necessarily need those fleet credits. I'm not saying you don't need them at all, I'm just saying you can make do without, because you're so early game. So my advice to you guys who are new to the game, or even you guys who are making new accounts just to follow along, or maybe you're following someone else's farming plan, it's important to set yourself up to success. And in my view, that is to first and foremost 7-star every character that's available to you. Not to mention, by 7-starring everyone, you're also going to be helping your guild out with platoons, both in dark side geo, light side geo, and then also the new Rise of Empire territory battle if you're doing that. Obviously, if you're following this guide, the chances are you may not be doing that on this account. Now, today's video, I actually want to talk about something important here, guys. Someone brought it up in my stream for my Grand Arena recently, and they said, hey Glurmit, with all the new changes and the raid changes, are the other farming plans now not as efficient? And they were referencing the SLKR farming plan, which a lot of you have followed. I followed it on an account myself, and I've said before that SLKR was such a good farm because he does give you that raid viability. That's something that unfortunately Starkiller is not going to be giving you guys. However, that's all about to change. Once the new raid comes into play, this is in around about, who knows, I'm assuming maybe 3 or 4 months time from now, we're going to be seeing new raids, and unfortunately characters like Kylo aren't going to be eligible. And the other thing that's quite big is there is now a lock on how much damage you can actually do. So they're really limiting the potential for solos. In fact, I don't think solos will really be a thing going forward. So there is the argument that some other farming plans have lost some viability. Again, guys, if you're following this plan and you've been following it from the start, you'll know that I've set this account up for Grand Arena success. That is my goal. If we wanted to go territory battle focus, we would have gone a completely different route. If we wanted to go for territory war focus, maybe we would have gone separate routes, but you will see that will tie into the Grand Arena focus here. And obviously, if we wanted a raid focus, we most likely would have just sat here and said, okay, we're going for SLKR. But obviously, that's not what we wanted to do. This whole point of this account is to see how far we can take a Grand Arena focused account. Yes, we're not going to be getting a Galactic Legend to begin with, And that's okay, we've explained this many times. The way we're farming and planning this account, we're going to be in a spot where we can kind of overcome those hurdles. The thing with Grand Arena is in the lower tiers, so Carbonite, Bronzium, those sorts of tiers, you're going to be able to beat opponents as long as you can full clear. Because the chances are they're not going to be that skilled in offense, so the chances are as long as you can beat them and set a couple of decent to average teams, you should be able to win. The thing is, once you get to Erodium and Kyber, that's when the competition starts to go up, especially towards the high end of Kyber. Now obviously this account, whilst I would love for it to make it to Kyber in the next year, it's unlikely. It's probably going to take about a year to 2 years to be in Kyber and stay there. So our aim is to get to Erodium at first, and if we're going to do that, we need to be able to clear what our opponent brings to the table. So for example, if our opponent brings SOKR, we need a counter. If our opponent brings C, we need a counter. If our opponent decides to bring something like Starkiller, we need a way around it. So we need a way around every team there. Now going for a Galactic Legend, like say we went for SOKR, that would not necessarily... Yes, he would beat the teams, but not necessarily be our go-to counter. The only Galactic Legend, which would be hard to prepare for, will be JMK Cat. However, there's not really many non-Galactic counters to JMK Cat. Yes, you can do like a Bounty Hunter 2-shot, or we could try something with Malgus, although that's very unlikely. The chances are we're going to struggle there. So what we need to plan for is a team to be able to beat each opposing Galactic Legend, with the exception of JMK Cat, who we're eventually going to farm our own Galactic Legend to counter long term. If we can do these sorts of things, we should see some success with the account. Now remember guys, it is still early days, I'm not even level 85. If I hadn't taken the break from the game, I should be there, I should already have Starkiller, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. We move, and in a way, hopefully it relates more to you guys who maybe don't have the most time in the world yourselves. So what is our immediate plan? Well, obviously, I've said many times, we want to get to level 85, we want to be able to do ship Zetas, and we want to be able to have 1 or 2 average fleets, and we're probably going to go Rebel Fleet, Empire Fleet to begin with. We then want some teams. So Phoenix is one team. We spoke about this before. We're going to be farming other teams. Like Iden is a team we're going to farm up very, very early because that is going to be our Lord Vader team. You could argue that we should really be using like a Fennec team to beat Lord Vader, but there's also the argument that Iden also works perfectly fine as well. And Iden is also going to be one of those teams we can slap on defense with great success. Honestly guys, the account is promising, things are looking good. I finally got into a really good guild. The guild is actually a 120 million GP guild. They beat all the raids on Heroic with the exception of the Crown Core, but guys remember the Crown Core raid is going to be leaving very, very soon. So overall, the account's looking like it's in a good spot. I'm aiming to have Starkiller in 2 to 3 months. That's quite ambitious, don't get me wrong, but that's the plan. And then there's some other characters we're going to float in there, which I can obviously talk about today, and they are going to be Sana and Hondo. I'm going to be farming both of them up relatively early. The good thing about them is Hondo is a very early Cantina node. We worked it out on a recent stream. We're looking at about 4.75 shards per 120 energy. That's 1 refresh. So if we can afford 1 to 2 refreshes down the line, we could have Hondo done in a month. And the same applies to Sana. And the reason we want to do that is because obviously I spoke about this in my recent video on what teams I'm going to farm, and one of them was eventually go for Jedi Knight Luke. And if we're going to go down the route of Jedi Knight Luke, we're going to have the Rolo team farmed up for Jedi Knight Luke's event, and they just slot perfectly into the team for Sana. So we're kind of trying to make the most use out of the characters we're getting, and I've said before, the characters that are being released currently in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes tend to be massive boosters for factions. I mean, even look at the new Tusken, they are boosting that faction. Sana boosts the Rebel faction. Iden boosts the Imperial Trooper faction. Like, you're seeing a trend here, guys, and it's a nice trend to see. Anyways, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a like and maybe subscribe. If this video gets 25 likes within 48 hours, I will post the next video of this series straight away. Thank you everyone for watching. My name is Glurmit, and see you later.